I've been in healthcare for nearly 30 years and here at Donaldsonville Hospital. Never have I ever seen an event like this. I've heard of tornadoes hitting communities and seen those communities, and the path of destruction was horrific. And it was a couple miles, a mile wide, but never an event like this, where the path of destruction could be as far wide as 20 to 25 miles, and it stretches the entire length of our whole county. The devastation is horrific. There are homes that have been destroyed. There are trailers that have been just wadded up and twisted, just like somebody picked up a Coca-Cola can and twisted it.
I mean, we're in that zone where it's not unusual for us to have bad weather several times a year. But we were expecting a tropical storm at its worst up until about 24 hours beforehand. And then all of a sudden they started ratcheting up the warning levels. And, it wasn't that long that we realized that it could be a hurricane when it hit here.
There was nobody in town that didn't have any trees down. That's how bad it was. There was trees everywhere. Cars damaged, houses damaged, roof leaking. There was just damage everywhere. I don't think Bainbridge would ever be the same. I mean, it's just, we're still looking at debris, a couple months later.
On my farm, while I moved the animals into safer pastures, we still lost a good number of animals. I never envisioned that so many trees would be down. I lost over 100 acres of pasture due to downed trees and the incredible flooding that still remains out there.
There are several sites around our community where debris, but the biggest one is at the airport. There's just hundreds of yards of debris, many feet high, yards wide of debris that's just been collected just in the town. That's not counting throughout the entire county. There are multiple sites, and the trucks are just continuously 7 days a week, all during daylight hours, collecting materials on the side of the roads. And now it's been 2 months, and these trucks continuously run day in and day out.
Michael paid a little visit to Southwest Georgia. 155 mile an hour sustained winds, not gust. This was a 200 mile wide tornado that went across Georgia. Region K includes 16 counties in Southwest Georgia. It's an extremely rural farming community. Some of our counties are a population as low as 5,000. So we go from a 90 to 100,000 area, metro area, to down to 5,000 or so. The Phoebe Putney healthcare system and the Archibald healthcare system that are our two main providers in the coalition area.
Phoebe Putney serves as the regional coordinating hospital for Region K, which is all of Southwest Georgia. And part of our responsibility is to help facilitate needs of other hospitals in times of need. We were preparing days in advance because one of the fortunate things with a hurricane is that you have time to plan and get things in place that with a tornado like we went through before, those are just sudden events.
We began getting very serious about preparation that included us canceling some elective activities and closing our clinics and offices, so we actually mobilized sleeping about 500 employees.
And one of the things we did as the regional coordinating hospital for Southwest Georgia, we went in and opened up an event log on GHA 911, which is really a messaging board for other hospitals to share with us their status, what their needs may be, and for us to be able to try and help facilitate anything during that time.
GHA is very important to us because they have many resources that can help us through a disaster. And we knew that their resources were out there if we needed staff or we needed physicians. If we needed to transfer patients, we knew that we could call on them.
In this event, it happened to be that we were going to be involved as well. And so we actually handed off our responsibility as a regional coordinating hospital.
We were able to hand off command to Region I up in Columbus, and they knew what to do. And if it hadn't been for GHA being the host of that, to be a central clearinghouse, we wouldn't have had the communications.
So GHA's been instrumental in assisting facilities across the state of Georgia in planning for emergencies such as this. It was actually several years ago, we had to prepare for 3 days and look at will we have enough oxygen? Will we have enough water? How will you feed the staff members that you're housing? Where are you going to put the staff members you're housing? It forced us to learn how to develop plans.
We set this facility up to house not just our employees during the hurricane, but their families and any other family members that were in their homes.
Remarkably, we had over 40 volunteers throughout our facility that volunteered to come in and shelter in during the entire event.
We shut down all areas that could, like our OR, and just planned to take care of our ER patients and our med-surg patients and, of course, our OB/GYN patients.
You know, it was amazing to me because we had staff members reaching out saying, you know, I'm not scheduled to work for 3 days, but I know this storm's coming. Can I come in and help? Do you have somewhere for me to sleep? They never once said, I don't want to do this, I'm not going to do this. We didn't have any of that. We made the call, we put the message out there, they said, I'll be there.
Somebody had live feed of a camera that was on a restaurant down in Mexico Beach, and we watched that restaurant just disintegrate.
I was standing in the front lobby of the hospital when the hurricane hit, and to see the shingles come off of the front of the hospital, it was like somebody threw a deck of cards up.
We were in winds that just didn't seem like they were going to stop. We had rain that rained sideways.
At one point, we were receiving 120, 125 mile an hour winds here. We've never seen that before.
We had staff members that were getting phone calls. You know, Mom, our house is gone. A tree's gone through our home.
We heard some rocking and rolling going up on the roof, and the first thing that got affected was we lost power. We have somewhere around 70 mechanical ventilator patients in this facility, and so those individuals were all safe. The generators came on just as we knew that they would.
I can't open the door. Oh, Lord.
Patients in the nursing home had moved to the central part of the nursing home.
They started to get a little panicky. You could see what was going on outside. They were looking out the windows. So we just started playing the piano and decided to have a hurricane party in the midst of that to kind of take their minds off of it.
Hey, smile, Ruby, this is our hurricane party. Okay, Miss Marinelle, smile for the camera. Say hey.
They kept their composure, which made the residents feel somewhat comfortable. They wasn't frantic.
Everything on the east side of the nursing home was getting water. The wind was blowing so hard that it was coming around the seals of the windows. One of our residents was yelling his window had blown out, and there was water all over his room.
Our maintenance department, during the peak of the storm, literally went and measured the room, cut the plywood, and installed the plywood in the patient's room.
I don't think you can get prepared emergency-wise for this magnitude. It's something I've never seen before.
we realized that we had lost a lot of our cell coverage inside. So we went up on top of one of the buildings to check those antennas. And one of the things I remember that night is walking out on that roof and just total darkness, just pitch black. No matter where you looked, the only thing I remember seeing was the lights at Phoebe Putney and the lights at Procter & Gamble. We're in the middle of the city. There should have been street lights on. There should have been other lights in the city on, but there was nothing.
We were on generator, and thankfully so, because the community needed us. There are a lot of people in the community that are dependent on oxygen, and they have concentrators that require electricity. So that's when the influx of community patients came in. Some came with their concentrator, some did not. You know, the community expects, and they depend on us to provide health care, especially in time of need.
Way off in the background, we heard noise. A volunteer fireman took it upon himself to bring his own personal small excavator, and he started clearing a path with the help and assistance later of another gentleman that was a farmer. No one asked, no one knew that he was going to do that. He upon himself just did it.
As we walked down the street and we turned and looked back, you could see that the hospital and the nursing home had power from our generator. There was a glowing light from this whole area. People in our community said that was very comforting to them to see that they knew we were okay.
In the middle of the storm, the folks in Blakely, they found themselves in a unique situation where a mother presented and was about to give birth.
They had a 27-week mom that was threatening to deliver, and that's in a hospital that doesn't have a nursery, much less a NICU.
Basically said she had walked over a mile from her house in labor, and then from there, the police brought her to the emergency room in the patrol car because of all the debris and trees.
All the ground systems were inactive. So at that point in time, we were just hoping and praying for time.
I mean, they kept calling people everywhere. They was like, we can't come. I was like, I know this the end. I just started crying. It's like, it's gonna be okay, and all that.
During the night, we'd lost power. We had 2 generators for the hospital. One of those generators went down. I got a call that screaming for me, Bud, get back in here. So I ran back in the room, and just as soon as I walked back in the room and sat down, the baby came out. Delivered.
She did not cry when she first came out. That was another terrifying thing. And I looked over there, she was moving and kicking, so I started feeling good.
It was right at 14 inches, 1.9 pounds, very tiny.
We had to resort to looking for air transport, so we actually called CHOA, Wolfson Children's Hospital, and UAB. And those air transport systems were grounded. So we had to make a decision to send our team.
We weren't sure if we could go a block or 10 miles or 10 feet at that point because it was still dark. So we waited till about 7:45, 8 o'clock in the morning, sunlight. We probably made it 5 or 6 miles and we started seeing a lot of traffic coming our way. So we're like, well, you know, we're probably not gonna get much further. And we got there and the Georgia DOT was working westbound and he did let us know that there was a team working eastbound. So they were trying to meet in the middle. And we sat around for probably 30, 45 minutes or so. And the ladies with the NICU decided that they weren't waiting anymore. So I grabbed my chainsaw and we went walking, and we probably went between 1.5 miles and 2.5 miles on foot. You know, every 30, 40 feet there were, you know, high as you could see, you know, debris, trees falling from both directions. We got through the debris and we seen headlights and we knew we were getting close to the other team. And I was just like, you know, hey, we have a 27-week-old baby we need to get to.
They hitched a ride with the guy from Texas to the ER.
I'd come in the emergency room with a chainsaw on my shoulder and I had a few strange looks. They looked at me and I was like, I'm not crazy. I'm with them. I'm here to help.
I was so happy to see them. I was thanking them. I mean, they got right on their job and just took over from there.
The infant by that point was actually starting to struggle with breathing. So they stabilized the infant, and then the question was, can we get the baby back here? We were full. Our NICU was full at that time. So our team subsequently took the infant from Blakely to the Regional Perinatal Center at Piedmont Columbus.
When I seen that baby, and it was that long, I mean, seriously, it was the little bittiest thing I've ever seen. And that made it all worthwhile.
With all that was going on, for things to go that well, it was really a kind of a miracle and a blessing.
The team in Blakely, I can't give enough credit to. I think that they're the heroes, the transport team that had to cut down trees and dodge power lines. Those are the folks that were the heroes.
Yeah, it's just a cool story. And again, it goes back to how 3 different organizations that are not connected, where they're not all part of the Phoebe system, but they were all connected at a higher level of taking care of the region and taking care of the community. We've got a great team here. They stepped up and they took care of this community. We do it every day. And those moments of crisis, I'm happy that our staff gets appreciated for what they bring to the community.
You can't say enough to thank them for what they do.
No matter what we asked somebody to do during that time, they did it.
You know, you can have a system set up, but at the end of the day, it really requires folks to have that kind of dedication.
Just when you think you've seen it all, you get something where you make a difference in somebody's life, and that makes it all worthwhile to me.
It was a time that you didn't really think that folks would come together like they did, and they did.
Patients have to have somewhere to go, and we're here to make sure they are taken care of.
Everything that we do here is purposeful with intent.
This is my hometown. I want to take care of this community.
It made me proud to be a part of the community because you're just not able to shape our little community.
It's indescribable. You can't put words to what happened here. They're true heroes in every aspect.
My family always know that this is where I'm going to be if there's a disaster, because these are the family members that I have that need me. So no matter what the disaster is, I'll be with these people. And many of our staff members that feel the same way.